I thought planning my second Camino would be easy. I've already walked 500 miles across Spain. I know how it works. I know what to expect. But once I actually started, I realized I'm approaching almost everything differently this time. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what I'm changing and why. So if you're planning your first Camino or thinking about doing another one, you can avoid some of the same mistakes I made the first time. If you're new here, I walked the Camino Francés last year, 34 days from St. Jean to Santiago, and I went into that one pretty much with no research, which was intentional. I didn't want expectations and I didn't want to feel disappointed if it didn't match what I'd seen online. So I just showed up and figured it out as I went. And there's something really beautiful about doing it that way. And at the same time, now I know there are a few things that I could do differently, starting with training. Before my first Camino, I mainly trained for distance. I was walking around 6 miles a day with one longer walk each week, and I made sure to carry my pack with the weight I'd actually have on the Camino. So I thought I was prepared. But what I didn't train for at all was elevation, and those first few days, especially the descent into Zubiri, completely wrecked my knees. By the end of day 2, I was limping and in tears, and it didn't just go away because once you've already overdone it that early, really hard to recover while you're still walking every single day. Then the blisters started. At one point, I had this triple blister on my pinky toe. My feet hurt so bad that I was thinking about it every single step of the way. I genuinely didn't think I would make it past the first week. So instead of easing into my Camino, I spent the first week trying to survive it. And that experience changed how I'm approaching this next Camino more than anything else. Because this time, I don't want to spend the first week recovering. I want to actually enjoy it from the beginning. So I'll still train for distance, but now I'm also looking at the route a little closer, trying to understand where certain sections might be harder on my body and where I have the option to make things easier on myself or just more enjoyable overall. For example, I've been going back and forth between the Portuguese coastal route and the central route. The coastal route is flatter overall, though you're walking along the ocean on more even terrain, so it's supposed to be generally easier on your body, especially at the beginning. But the central route, on the other hand, takes you through more towns and countryside. There's more hills, but there's also a bit more variety day to day. So if you stay fully on the coastal, you're avoiding some of those tougher climbs and descents, which, if you've ever dealt with knee issues like I have, actually matters. But the trade-off is the coastal can start to feel a little repetitive. A lot of boardwalk, a lot of straight walking, less variation day to day. So what I'm planning to do instead is combine the two. Start on the coastal for the views and the flatter terrain, especially at the beginning when my body will still be adjusting, then merge into the central later on. That way I still get the ocean views and a slightly easier start physically, but also more variety in that classic Camino feel once I move inland. And this is something I didn't think about at all the first time. I just picked a route and followed the arrows. I didn't even realize there were going to be points along the way where you could choose differently. This time, I'm thinking about how each section is going to feel while I'm walking it, not just what it looks like on a map. On my first Camino, I also didn't have any kind of routine for taking care of my body. I would wake up, start walking, and only think about something once it started bothering me. So going into this next one, I really want to stay ahead of that. I plan to take time to stretch before I start walking and again at the end of the day. I also want to be more intentional about how I take care of my feet this time. Better socks, maybe even toe socks, and possibly using gel inserts, and just having a simple routine at the end of the day, like using a massage ball or just rubbing my feet and checking for any early signs of blisters so I can take care of them before they get worse. Things that are simple but would have made a huge difference my first week. I also have a shorter window for this Camino, so I don't have the same flexibility I had the first time just to push through a rough start and hope it improves. I want to feel good from the beginning, and that same thinking carries over into how I'm approaching accommodation this time. First time, I didn't book anything ahead before I started, and at first it all worked out. Even when I switched from shared albergues to private rooms, I could usually find something. But somewhere along the middle of Camino, I hit a point where there were no private rooms available anywhere. So I ended up in a shared albergue, and it was honestly one of the worst nights of sleep I've ever had. There was a person snoring so loud that it didn't even feel real, and I was lying in that bunk bed feeling completely trapped and stressed because I had another night in a shared place the next night. And I remember being on my phone until 3 in the morning trying to find anything else, and there was nothing. I felt so helpless, and that was the moment it clicked for me. This idea of just figuring it out every day works until it doesn't. And when it doesn't, it affects everything: your sleep, your mood, your energy the next day, your entire experience. So from that point on, I started booking ahead, just a couple days at first, then about a week ahead once I started getting closer to Saria because it got harder to find availability again. This time I'm approaching it completely differently. I want to be more intentional about where I stop and mainly making sure I have a private room so I can actually rest and sleep well. Also choosing places like albergues or hostels where there's a social atmosphere with it. Because I realize you don't have to choose between social and comfortable. With a little planning, you can actually have both. The route is also also a much more intentional decision this time. The first time I chose the French way because a lot of the reasons that makes it the most popular. It's structured, it's social, and it's super easy to follow. And for a first Camino, it is a great choice. But this time I'm planning for the Portuguese route, and I based it on how I want my days to feel. At the end of my last Camino, I walked onto Fistera and I loved those days along the water. Something about being near the ocean just completely changed how it felt to walk. But this time I want more of that. More time near the water, also a route that's a bit easier on my body, and one with enough people that it doesn't feel isolating while still being able to have time to myself when I want it. Because what I understand now is that your route doesn't just determine where you go, it shapes your entire day. The other big shift for me is how I'm thinking about pacing. The first time, everything was about distance. How far am I going today? Where am I stopping? It was very linear. But now I'm thinking more about energy because 20 kilometers can feel completely different depending on how your day is structured. If you stack multiple hard days in a row, your body never gets a chance to recover, and that fatigue carries into the next day. So instead of just planning in stages, I'm also thinking about rhythm, like where it might make sense to have a shorter day, or where I might want a better place to rest, or where I need to push it a little bit. And that is also coming from a real time constraint this time. I only have about 2 weeks, so I don't have the same flexibility I had on the French way, which means my timing actually matters. I can't just walk shorter days indefinitely or adjust endlessly. So I'm thinking about how I'll structure my days a lot more carefully this time. There's also something else I've been thinking about. The first time I walked, I felt this pressure to do the Camino the right way, to not pre-book places, to only stay in shared albergues, to always be social and walk with people, to follow this idea of what I thought a Camino is supposed to look like. And this time, I just don't feel that anymore. If I want a private room, I'll book it. If I want a slower day, I'll take it. If I want to walk alone, I will, and without guilt. Because the truth is, there isn't only one right way to do the Camino. There's just the way that actually works for you. The last thing I'm planning on doing differently this time is how I'll document the experience. The first time I filmed a lot, but it was all really random. Clips of me walking or quick videos of whatever I was seeing in the moment. And at the time, it felt like I was capturing everything, but looking back, a lot isn't even actually usable because I didn't capture the things that would have actually been helpful later, like where I stayed, my favorite cafes and food, or which towns I really liked or would skip next time. And for the stuff I did capture, I didn't organize any of it properly. So now I have all these photos and videos, but I don't even know what I have, which makes it really hard to share or even revisit for myself. This time I want to be a lot more intentional with that. I'm planning to document things like the places I stay and what they're like, specific towns that are great to stop in or maybe not worth it, the food I try along the way, and just more of the day-to-day reality, not just the highlight moments. So if you're planning a Camino or even just thinking about it, make sure you're subscribed. I don't walk again until September, but over the next few months, I'll be sharing more Camino videos and some new content on full-time travel. Thanks for watching, and as always, buen Camino.